Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So inshallah in this lesson we're going to be learning about how to write the Arabic letters. We're going to be learning how to write each one individually, like the Alif, for example. Then we'll be showing you how they're written in the beginning of a word, the middle of a word, and the end of the word. And also if there are any different forms of the letter, I'll show you that as well. So this will be quite comprehensive. It's going to go through all the letters, inshallah, and I'll be dividing them up into sections so you can actually review certain letters if you want, all the letters, whatever you need to, inshallah, and should get you starting to write, inshallah ta'ala.
So we start with the letter Alif, the first letter. You start from top and work your way down to the bottom. It's just a line. So that's quite straightforward. Now the Alif is probably the hardest letter to learn because it's actually accompanied usually with Hamza. Now this Hamza is usually written in this way. And there's another type of Hamza as well, which is something like this. We'll talk about this later on, inshallah. So just for now, just think of the Alif as just a line. When these get attached to it, this letter is then not termed Alif. It's called a Hamza. So this is a very powerful letter, which converts the Alif to a Hamza. And we'll talk about this later on, inshallah. Now, with the Alif, how is it written in the beginning of a word, in the middle and the end? So in the beginning of a word, it's actually written as we wrote it there. So it's just, that's how it's written. In the middle of a word, so for example, let's say there's a word before it, and it's coming across. To write the Alif, all we do is just raise it up like this. If this is in the middle of the word, there'll be a letter coming after it. Now this letter coming after it won't join to the Alif. So let's for example say it was a ba. It'll just be written after it. And similarly, at the end of a word, it'll just be like that. If you were to write 3 Alifs, one after the other, and let's assume they're from the same word, we would write it in the following way. So notice, this Alif does not join to this, because Alif doesn't join to the letter after it. It can to the letter before it. So say there was a letter before it, it could join, but not after it. That's why we wrote the Alifs separately. Okay, next letter. The ba. So the ba is written in the following way. You start from not to the top, and then just go down, and up like that. Probably not that long, that's quite long, so probably just something like this. So once again, let's see how this letter is in the front of a word, in the middle and the end. So in the front of a word, it'll be written like that, and then there'll be a dot there. And it's not brought up to allow for the next letter. Now if it's in the middle of the word, so what we do is we just bring it up, and then do it like this. And put the dot. And similarly, in the end, up, and then it'll be the complete, because it's the last letter. Now, if we were to write 3 of these in a row, assuming they're from the same word, how do you do it? Okay, that's quite straightforward. The next 2 letters, the Thaa and the Thaa, are very similar. The only difference is where the dots are put. So let's do this. Okay, the Thaa. So once again, it's written on top. That's 2 dots there. Now these 2 dots can be represented by the following. So if we do this again, we can do a line like this. Now this line, so I'll make it a bit longer, this line can represent these two dots. So just a shorthand way of writing it. So once again, in the beginning, we leave this for the next letter. In the middle, so there's a letter coming, and then put the Thaa there. And finally, ending. It comes, and then once again, the three Thaas is very easy. It's just one after the other. Now get to the Thaa. It has the three dots. Now we can actually, let's just do this. Now we can represent these three dots by the following. It's like an upside down V. And that's just a shorthand way of doing that. Sometimes you might find writing, especially for Arab writes, you'll find that they use this shorthand way. Now let's get to the beginning of a word. Now it doesn't matter which dot you put first. There's no preference. So that's the beginning. Then we have the middle, so it's coming, and then and finally the end. And it's similar. It just finishes. So it's you get the three dots there. Sorry, that's not that good. I'll just make it a bit better. Yeah. And writing the three Thaas together as if they were one word is as follows. Sorry that I just did it should be three dots there. So that's quite straightforward. Okay, we have the Jeem now. So the Jeem is written in the following way. You start just above the line and you go across and then come down and then put the dot there. So once again, across, come down and put the dot there. This can go a bit further than here, that's fine, but don't bring it over here. So don't stop the line up to here. Bring it more. So either parallel to the same length as this, or a bit further down. That's fine. Now, Jeem in the beginning of the word is as follows. We start here, go down, and then come across, and put a dot there. And then the next letter comes after it. So it joins to the next letter. Now, when it comes to the middle of a letter, so we have a letter coming before it, then we have the Jeem, and then across like that. And there is the dot. And coming at the end is a bit different. So we have the letter. What we do is we raise it up a bit. And then write this form. So we come across, we start from here, go across, and then come down like that. And then put the dot. Now if we want to write three Jeems in a row, it's as follows. First Jeem, second Jeem, and then third Jeem. So, and then we dot it. Another way of doing it, and this is the shorthand way, is what you do is go like this, and like that, and like that. So that's three Jeems, and you just dot them. Now that's more advanced. You'll find this form in the Quran script. As a beginner, this is probably the easiest way to do it. The next two letters, the Ha and the Khaa, are exactly the same as this. The only difference is where the dot is. So I'm going to leave this on, and what we're going to do is I'm just going to take off the dots and just put them in the place where they're supposed to be, inshallah. So here we have the letter Ha. The Ha has no dot. So everything that I told you about the Jeem is the same. The way it's written, all the different forms. The only difference will be the dot is not there. So let's just remove the dot of each one. Next we have the Khaa. It's the same way, but the difference is where the dot is. Let me just show you where the dot is supposed to be. So in its isolated form, it goes on top here. Similarly here, it goes on top. And similarly here, it goes on top as well. Okay, now we have the letter daal, which is written in the following way. So you start from about here, you go down, and then come across like that. So it's like a nose. And even maybe a bit like that. Now, the daal being used in the beginning. It's as follows. And the word that comes after it will not join to the daal. Like the Alif, it's separated. Now with the medial form, there's a letter coming, and then what happens is there's the daal. And the daal is not joined to the next letter. And once again, in the end, it's the same way. So it's like that. So it can be joined from behind, but nothing can be joined after it. So if we wrote 3 daals one after the other in the same word, it would be as follows. Now with the dhaal, it's exactly the same as the daal with a dot on top. So each of them will have a dot. And we obviously write the dot after we write this part here. So dots will always be put after. Okay, next letter. So the ra. Now, unlike the daal, which is more closed, the ra is open. So we start from probably about here, and then go down like this. See how it's open rather than closed like the daal. So that's how you write the ra. Now the ra in the beginning will be as follows. So like the daal and the dhaal, the ra is also not joined. And we'll find out the next letter as well, which is like the ra with a dot, also is the same. It's not joined. So that's in the beginning. In the middle, it can join from behind, and then you just go like that. So notice here, it starts a bit on top there. But the ra here can actually start from the line because of the previous letter. You can also bring it up slightly, like the following. That's fine to do as well. Just slightly. And once again, in the end of a word, it's the same. So if you wrote 3 of them in a row, it'd be as follows. Next letter is the zaay. Zaay. And zaay is the same, except for the dot on top. Okay, next letter, the sheen. So the sheen is written as follows in the isolated form. Once again. So when it comes in the beginning of a word, it's as follows. And then this joins on. In the middle, so there's a letter before it, and then, and at the end of a word, it's as follows. So there's a letter before it, and then it's like this. So similar to the isolated forms. If we wrote 3 scenes in a row, how would it look like? Now, you know, see the distance between the scenes, it could be actually a bit shorter. so it doesn't have to be this long between the two scenes. And obviously it depends on your script, so it doesn't really matter how long it is. It can actually be longer if you want it to. That's up to you. Next letter, it's the sheen. The sheen is exactly the same. The only difference are the dots, which are put last. So we can write it in exactly the same way, and then put the dots. So, just for shorthand, I'll do this. And then that, and that, and that. Now with dotting, the correct way is to write out the letters first, and then do the dotting. So you write out all these scenes first, and say you wanted to dot them and make them sheen, then you start from the right hand, dot these, then dot these, and then dot these. And that's the way it's done with all letters. Letters first, dots second. Next letter is the Swaad. Now with the Swaad, it's a bit tricky. What you do is you start just below the line, and then you go up, and then bring it down like this, and then come, and then you do the loop. It's not that good. I'll do that again. So come down, and then that's probably a bit better. In the beginning of a word, how is the Swaad? It's as follows. So you start from just below the line, and then go around like this, and then come like that. So it joins to the next letter. In the medial form, it comes from another letter. Then what you do is, you go a bit further, go down, and then come back up. And then go like that. And then the next letter is joined to that. And finally, the end form, which is as follows. So you have the letter, go a bit further down, go down, come like that, and then you do the go down a bit. So it goes more down, similar to the isolated forms. Maybe this should go a bit further down like this. So that's how it's done. Now writing three Swaads as if they were in the same word is as follows. So it's the letters joined together. And we have the Dhaad, which is exactly the same. The difference is the dot. So the dot is put just there. And we'll just do that. So that's the Dhaad. So the Thaa is done in the following way. Is you start here, it's like that, and then down like this. So you curve, come down, and then the line. Once again, so in the beginning of a word, it's quite straightforward. You go around, come around, and then the top. And this connects to the next word. With the medial form, it comes around. So what you do is, you come around, connect it up like this, and then do that. At the end of the word, so make sure that it comes out. You don't want to do that. Let's write the Thaa one after the other. So it's one Thaa, two Thaa, and a three Thaa. So three Thaas. So that's how three Thaas are joined together. Now with the Thaa, it's the same thing, except for the dot. So the dot is put there. That's incorrect anyway, so we'll just cross that out. And dot, dot, dot. Next we have the ayn. So the ayn is written as follows. You have the top part written on top of the line, and then the second part written below the line. So it's done in this way. Once again, that should be a bit further down, and once again. So in the beginning, it'd be as follows. And then waiting for the next letter to connect. In the intermediate form, it's a bit tricky, and it's different to the actual isolated form. It goes, first of all, so we have the previous letter. We go a bit further, then we go up, across, and then down. So it's like an upside down triangle. And then that connects to the next letter. Now in the final form, it's similar to this. What we do is, so we have the previous letter, and then to finish it off, we go up, across, and then it's going to be similar to the last part. So it's going to be down like this. So let's draw the three ayns one after the other. So next letter is the Ghayn. It's exactly the same as the ayn, except for the dot. So once again, we'll dot them all. And that's the Ghayn. Next we have the Thaa. You start just above the line, and you do a small circle, and then come down and go across, and then up like this. So let's do this again. Now in the beginning of a word, it's as follows, and it connects to what comes next. In the medial form, you go across, that's the previous letter, and then do a loop, and then come down. And that connects to the next letter as well, and then you put the dot. You do the dot at the end when you complete the word. Finally, at the end of the word. So it's exactly the same. Goes across, and then you loop, and then bring this up. So similar to the isolated form. Now three Thaas. So you have the Thaa, and then loop, and then loop, and then bring it up. Dot, dot, dot. Next letter is the Qaaf. The Qaaf is a bit different to the Thaa, in that it starts off the same, but it goes down, and it goes like that. It's more rounded. And then you put the two dots. So once again, I'll do it. It's probably not, it should go further down. Once again, I'll do it. Front of the word, it's similar to the Thaa. It goes like this, and then it connects on to the previous word. So it doesn't go down like the isolated form. And that's similar to the medial form. So the previous letter, and what you do is you just loop, and then connects to the next letter. Once you finish writing all the letters, then you dot, and you put the two dots, or for example, we can put a line to represent two dots. And finally, the end form. So previous letter, loop, but when you loop it, you go down and up like this, and then put the two dots. So writing three of these letters together is as follows. And then we'll just do the shorthand form. That's how you do it. So that's the two dots. Next letter, okay, the kaaf. The kaaf is as follows. So all you do is just go down and then come across. You could give it a bit of a, like that. You can make it rise a bit. And there's a S there. So once again. So you can do it without this coming up a bit. That's fine. And once again. Now this letter is a bit tricky because only the end form is similar to its isolated form. So in the beginning of a word is as follows. You start from top here, you go down, and then come across like this, and then go like this. And that's the kaaf. So you can think of it similar to this part here, but it's just being made bigger. Now, the medial form is as follows. Come across, previous letter, then come here, curved line that goes across to the next letter, finish the word, and then join up like this. Now with the end, it's similar to the isolated form. So there's a previous letter, and then what you do is you just come up and then come across and give it the. So writing these letters together is as follows. Go down and then, okay. Then you'd come across like that, and then come there, and go like this, and then come back and put that in. So that's how it's done. Next letter is the laam. Now that with the laam, it's similar to the kaaf, and there's no S, as you can see, the small S, but it's a bit different. The way it's done is, you start from about here, you come down, and then you come down past the line, and then it goes back up. So it's like that. And you can curve it slightly, so it's curve it in slightly. That should be curved in slightly. In the initial form, actually, is as follows. It's like the kaaf. And then you're waiting for the next letter to join. And this letter joins on to the next letter. So lambs actually join on. Next we have the medial form. So that's the previous letter. Then up and across. And then the next letter joins to that. Now the final form is a bit different. It's similar to the isolated form. So you have previous letter, come up, it goes further down, and then goes like that. So the three letters being written together is as follows. So this is the first lam, that's the second lam, and that's the third one. It's a bit tricky there, but inshallah, it'll take practice. Okay, next letter is the meem. So to do this, we start from about here. We come around like a loop, come around, and then like that. So I'll do that again. Come around, and like that. So that's the way the meem is written in the isolated form. Now, in the beginning of the word, it's as follows. You start from about here, and just go around, and then come down, waiting for the next letter. In the medial form, previous letter, you come up, and you go around, and then come there, and then go to the next letter. And the final form is as follows. Go previous letter, then you go up, come around, and then go down. Now there are other forms of this. You don't need to go that much down, so it could be just, for example, as follows. So to join three memes together is as follows. It's 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, that's quite straightforward. Next letter, the noon. Now the noon is a bit different to the ba, the ta, and the tha, in that the isolated form, it doesn't stay on the line, it goes below the line. So something like this. So the beginning of the word is as follows. It's exactly the same as a ta, tha, and a ba, except for the dot is on top. In the medial form, it's the same. So you go up, and then you wait for the next letter. And in the final form, this is where it's different, is that you have the previous letter, and then it comes up, but then it goes more down. So it's similar to the isolated form. So to write 3 noons together is as follows. And then you dot them. Now next letter is the ha, and this is probably the most complicated letter to write. Now the isolated form is written in the following way. It's like a circle, but it's more like that. Like an egg shape. I'll do it again. Now when it's written in the beginning of a word, it's as follows. You start off here, and what you do is, it's similar to this, but it's more rounded. So what you do is you go down and then come back up, and then when you reach here, you do another circle, but a smaller one. So you go down and then come like that. So let me do this again. That's probably a better one there. Now the medial form is as follows. It's a bit different, and this is where it's a bit complicated. You start from the previous letter, and what you do is you go down, down, and you come back up, and then you come like this. I'll do this again. Come, and like that. It'll take some practice, but inshallah you'll get there. Now, when it comes at the end of a word, it's as follows. If it joins on to the next letter, what you do is, you just go up a bit, slightly, come down ever so slightly, and then go around like this, and do that. Now let's say that the second last letter was a letter that you can't join to the ha. Let's say it was a daal, because a daal can't join to the next letter. So you'd actually put the isolated form. Now if we put 3 has one after the other, how would it look? It would be as follows. We spoke about this form of ha in the middle of a word. Actually, there's another way of writing it, which is as follows. So you start off here, and you just go down like this, and come back up, and then go across. So instead of doing this, you can just do this, and that's a ha. Okay, next letter, the waaw. The waaw is quite simple. You start from about here, and just go like that. Once again, I'll do it. So like that. So in the beginning of a word, it just does that, and that's it. And you can't join it to the next letter. It's isolated from the next letter. Now in the medial form, this is the previous letter. What we do is, you just come around, and then do this. Next letter that comes after it will not join to it. And then the final form if it's the final letter, it's the same. Just like that. So if we joined three vowels together, it'd be as follows. You probably guessed it already. It's just the isolated forms, one after the other. Now the final letter is the ya. This is more complicated. Now the isolated form, as you can see, it's sort of like a duck shape. So you start from about here, come around, and then go back up, and then put the two dots. Do it again, and once again. There's no curve here. Sorry, it shouldn't be there. That's curved too much. So but it's more like this. Now, this letter in the beginning is not in this particular way. It's actually similar to the ba, the ta, the tha, and the noon. It's like this. And then there's two dots. The medial form is the same. So, previous letter, and then you put the two dots. And finally, the end form. Now with the end form, it's a bit different. That's the previous letter. What you do is you go slightly up, and then do that. So if I join these together, it'd be as follows. Okay, so we finished the alphabet. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
قال محمد هو ابن مالك أحمد رب الله خير مالك مصليا على النبي المصطفى وآله المستكملين الشرفا وأستعين الله في ألفية مقاصد